You ever bought a cheap dehumidifier that promised big room power only to find it rattling on the floor, dripping water everywhere, and barely making a dent in that stubborn basement humidity? I've seen that scenario so often that the first thing I think about is the regret you feel when you realize you've spent a couple of $100 on a unit that can't actually keep your crawl space dry. That's why, before I even touched the AprilAire E070W, I dug into the whole category of whole house dehumidifiers, read the handful of reviews that actually exist, and asked myself whether the higher price tag truly translates into a smarter buy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The main hesitation most people have with a dehumidifier this size is whether it's really needed for a typical basement or if a smaller, cheaper unit would do. The truth is, basements and crawl spaces are often the biggest offenders when it comes to excess moisture, and the damage they cause: mold, musty odors, even structural rot can be far more costly than the unit itself. What sets the AprilAire apart is that it's built to handle up to 2,200 square feet, which covers most finished basements and even some adjacent living spaces. For a homeowner who already has a noticeable condensation problem or who's trying to protect a finished basement that doubles as a home office, that capacity isn't just a number. It's the difference between a dry floor and a soggy carpet after a rainy weekend. So who should actually consider buying this thing? First, think of the homeowner who already has a whole house HVAC system and is looking for an integrated solution. The AprilAire E070W plugs into your Wi-Fi and talks to the Healthy Air app, which means you can set a target relative humidity, monitor current levels, and even get alerts when the unit kicks in. That kind of automation is a huge win for anyone who isn't going to be manually fiddling with a dial every evening. If you're already comfortable with smart thermostats, the learning curve is virtually non-existent. Second, if you have a crawl space that's been a source of dampness, think water seeping up through the foundation or a persistent earthy smell, this unit is sized to pull the moisture out continuously, thanks to its 70 pins per day rating. In real-world terms, that translates to roughly 330 gallons removed each week under moderate humidity conditions, which is enough to keep a typical crawl space dry for months without the unit cycling on and off constantly. That steady removal can also lower the load on your furnace, because when the air is drier, it doesn't have to work as hard to heat a wet space. On the flip side, if you're renting an apartment, live in a climate that rarely hits 60% humidity, or only need a small portable unit for a tight closet, you'll probably be better off with a budget-friendly 30-pint model. The AprilAire's 70-pint capacity, while impressive, is also what drives the price up, and you'll end up paying for power you never fully use. Additionally, the unit's footprint is larger than a typical portable dehumidifier, so you need a spot where it can sit quietly without getting in the way of furniture or access to the basement stairs. Let's talk about the practical strengths that actually matter after you hook it up. The first thing I noticed during testing was the quietness. Many high-capacity units emit a low hum that can be annoying if you're working in a basement office, but the AprilAire runs at a level that's barely perceptible a few feet away. That makes it feasible to keep the unit running 24/7 without the constant background noise that would otherwise drive you crazy. The second strength is the Setitan Forget's simplicity. Once you connect it to your Wi-Fi, the Healthy Air app does the heavy lifting. You choose a target humidity, say 45%, and the unit automatically cycles on and off to maintain that level. There's no need to run manual timers or constantly check a water tank. The unit drains directly to a standard floor drain via its built-in pump, which is a relief if you've ever dealt with a full reservoir that spills over. A hidden trade-off shows up when you look at the power draw. A unit that can handle 70 pints per day will inevitably consume more electricity than a smaller model, especially if you live in a very humid region where it has to run continuously. In my tests, the AprilAire's energy usage hovered around 650 watts while active, so if you're on a tight budget, you might see that reflected on your monthly electric bill. However, the cost can be offset by the reduced need for extra heating or cooling, because drier air feels more comfortable at lower temperatures. Another practical weakness is the installation requirement. While many portable dehumidifiers just sit on the floor and you plug them in, the AprilAire is designed to be a semi-permanent fixture. You'll need to position it near a drain or set up a hose for the pump, and the unit itself is about